So, hi guys, welcome back to the second part of the second episode of Italy. Now, this has been done in a slightly different manner, slightly different way, as you can probably tell by now, because I annoyingly accidentally deleted the second part of the second episode, the video, which I was going to upload. So it's kind of done a bit differently than usual, but we'll get back to our usual standards from the time being. So just to kind of reiterate, the landings by the American Fifth Army at Salonika, they had met up with the British Eighth Army, who had come basically from Sicily right round in kind of an arc, and they've met up. The Americans and British had finally successfully taken over the Gustav line, the Hitler line, the Gustav line, then went up to Monte Cassino. Monte Cassino, massive, what the Germans could call fortified area. It's a big, huge mountain with a massive steeple or church on the top, which the German Fallschirmjägers or paratroopers basically were shooting at turkeys down from up above, where we were down below. So it was very very easy for those Germans to to fire down on the Allied or British American troops. So they couldn't get any armour support, any wheeled vehicles up there because of the mountain terrain. So Americans sent B-17 bombers over to bomb Monte Cassino, bomb that area where the German paratroopers were. But whilst they were doing that, they sent the Allies up. So British and American casualties numbered in the thousands just by friendly fire, which was from bombing, which was annoying, quite annoying. At the time, of course, it was. Then, after that, both Allied troops pushed on to the Gothic line, which was again another fortified, entrenched area with tank turrets used as artillery and mines and everything like that. So, Toby, do you want to explain a bit more?
Yes, so as Tim very well summed up there, Monte Cassino basically ended up becoming a real pain for the Allies. It really did. We tried to go up the hill, and originally German Fallschirmjägers were not inside the monastery. They were just outside it, but we thought they were. And as a result, we bombed the monastery, but that made things really bad, because it then just turned into basically the most effective defensive position maybe of the entire war, except on the Western Front. I would definitely put it up there. I mean, very high, you have the German Fallschirmjäger with their very deadly FG-42s, which are a very famous weapon. That's pretty devastating when you think about something with similar kind of rate of fire to the MG-42, but firing, it's more mobile because it's not a heavy machine gun. So we decided to then go to Anzio, because to kind of outflank the line, because as Italy's a small peninsula, so you can kind of go round it. But what then ended up happening is the landing bogged down. So I'll just quickly summarise it here. So the Prussian army did used to have a saying, don't ask how many enemies, just ask where. And that slogan really makes sense for an army that fights larger, richer foes, and that has no choice but to emphasise willpower over weapons, heart over technology. They're at least but to fight outnumbered and then do the very best they could to win. So their descendants had the same mission in the later years of World War II. I mean, the Italian campaign, as we're talking about, the Allies hold all of the high cards, endless waves of men, tanks, and aircraft, and absolute control of the sea. Nevertheless, the men and officers of the Wehrmacht endured grimly, clinging on to every mountain, river, and ridge, and contesting every inch of ground in this area. Perhaps if they held on long enough, they would find a way to return to the attack like the Prussians of old. Perhaps the Allies would get sloppy, make a false move, and provide them with an opening, and that opening was Anzio. we hesitated breaking out of the beachhead. It's very similar to what happened at Gallipoli, actually, eerily similar. We hesitated because we didn't really. The commander there wasn't especially good, Lucas, and as a result, the Germans were able to do what they did at their very, very best, and that's mount a full-scale counterattack with, all of their armoured divisions. So we have the 1st Fallschirm Panzer Division, Hermann Göring, which, just a brief kind of bit of information, it's one of the only Luftwaffe divisions equipped with armour, and you can tell their troops because their collar patches are actually the standard Luftwaffe-shaped ones, but white, with the kind of colour of the branch of service around them. They also had SS smocks, or at least some of them did, which is really odd considering they're Luftwaffe, and they just crumpled the Allied beachhead into a very small corner. It came close to being, an outright defeat, but then the Polish at Monte Cassino just charged heroically into the, monastery, unlocked that, and because it was such a strategic position, it basically unhinged the Germans' entire defensive line, and the panzers, ravaging the Allied beachhead, basically had to retreat and get out of there fast before they were just completely swarmed by forces coming up the Italian peninsula.
Right, thanks. Well said, Toby. Very orchestrated, big word. So once the Patton's 5th Army and Montgomery's 8th Army pushed over the Gothic line, they had a massive home run. Right from where the American 5th Army moved in kind of that direction towards the Swiss Alps, and then the British Army, the 8th Army, walked over kind of towards Yugoslavia, which was there, and Hungary, which is over there. They didn't actually go into Yugoslavia and Hungary at the time, but they pushed in towards Nice. And here you've got, from my collection, is 8th Army cloth insignia there. So that has basically been the end of the second episode of how Germany lost the the war, the Second World War. So Toby, go ahead.
One last thing before we end the video. So in this episode, we did want to include a couple of bits also from my collection as well as Tim's. So I might note, so in my collection, so when Italy capitulated, a bit previous to this, in 1943, the Germans basically just plundered all of its resources, just took all of them, even their existing weapons. And as a result of this, they ended up taking stuff like the Italian mess tin, which was then issued to German troops later in the war. So I have one of these. This actually originated in Italy, in a small kind of cache of them almost. How you can tell it's the German one is it's actually repainted kind of a very familiar kind of apple green, which is mostly used early in the war, but this was only done late, so it's pretty odd. Second thing would be tropical Klarscheiben, or gas mask lenses. So these were for tropical conditions like Italy, which also could get very cold though. But more importantly, the Fallschirmjäger had them in their gas mask bags. The Fallschirmjäger didn't actually have the standard gas mask canister, or at least most of the time. They mostly had a bag because it was just a bit, the canister's just too heavy and bulky to drop in from the air. And as a result, these would have been the kind of thing that they were, carrying around at Cassino with them. And, because Cassino got very, very dusty because of all of the aerial and artillery bombardment, they maybe put their gas masks on some of the time. I've never heard of it, but it would not surprise me. I've heard of it in other campaigns. And then finally, again on the Luftwaffe theme, I've got a very nice, I think, late type Luftwaffe cap eagle. And the really, really nice thing about this one is you can actually see where the pins on the back have actually been broken, because it's been pulled off a cap or something. So maybe Allied soldier, maybe found one of these or found one lying around, maybe on a German who they'd taken prisoner, and just as a souvenir decided just to pull it off. It broke the pins, and now there it is in my collection. So it's pretty interesting.
Alright, thanks Toby. Yes, so you'll be seeing those at the end of this part 2, this episode. So thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you back in the next episode, which will be episode 3 of the Battle of Kursk. So thanks for watching, guys. Have a good one, and see ya.